Welcome to Starbound Valor HFY. Subscribe now and dive into daily epic sci-fi adventures, where humanity always rises. Commander Zirith stood at the front window of the Altar exploration ship, the Valaris, as it glided into the solar system. He had seen hundreds of planets in his lifetime, but nothing prepared him for Earth. It was blue, deep, shining blue, almost glowing like a living jewel in the dark space. For a long moment he simply stared, feeling something strange, something he could not explain, like the planet was watching him back. The crew around him sensed it too. No one spoke. Even the ship's AI fell silent, as if it understood that this place was not normal. Their own star system, far behind them, was dying. That was the only reason they came. They were looking for a new home, a last hope for the Altar people. Earth was beautiful, warm, and full of life. It looked perfect. But the moment they crossed Neptune's orbit, the scanners began to scream. A warning message flashed across every monitor in the ship. Not a signal from any satellite. Not a broadcast from any human source. It was something else. Something old. Something powerful. A single message repeated again and again. Do not approach Earth. The communication officer froze. Commander, this signal is not from humans. It is coming from the planet itself. Zirith frowned. Planets do not talk. But Earth did. The message pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger every second. The crew felt a pressure in their minds, as if the warning was not only heard, but felt inside their bones. They had never seen anything like this. Still, Zirith could not turn back. Millions of lives depended on him. Their sun was collapsing, their planets were freezing, and their people waited for hope. Earth was that hope. Continue forward, Zirith ordered. The crew hesitated, but obeyed. As the ship slowly moved toward Earth, something terrifying happened behind them. The blue star of their home system flickered on the long-range display. Then one of their outer planets dimmed, as if something was sucking the energy out of it. The science officer whispered, "Commander, our star is losing power faster than before. It is like something is draining it." Zirith felt cold. They had left their home system days ago. There was no reason the star should suddenly weaken. Unless something reacted to their approach toward Earth. The idea felt insane. Impossible. But every instinct in Zirith's mind whispered the same thought. Earth is not a normal planet. Someone, or something, is protecting it. The closer they came, the stranger the readings became. Earth's atmosphere glowed with patterns, like moving lines of energy. The oceans pulsed like they held secrets. Even the mountains seemed alive. The Valaris shook with sudden turbulence, though they were still in orbit. "Something is pushing us back," the pilot yelled. Energy waves hit the ship like invisible hands. Lights flickered. Panels cracked. The message grew louder inside their heads. "Do not set foot on Earth." Zirith clenched his jaw. "We must understand why Earth is doing this. Bring the ship into stable orbit." But the ship refused. The engines died without warning. Everything went dark. No power. No lights. Only silence. For a moment, no one breathed. The crew tried restarting systems, but something had locked them out. Then a voice spoke inside their minds. Deep, echoing, ancient, not angry, but cold and final. "The price of touching Earth is everything you love." Zirith staggered back. The voice was not coming from the ship, not from any speaker. It was inside their minds. The crew panicked. Some held their heads in pain. Some dropped to their knees. The pilot begged, "Commander, we must leave. This planet will destroy us." But Zirith could not leave, because he saw something the others didn't. Out of the corner of his eye, Earth changed. For a second, only a second, he saw a massive shape under the clouds. A continent-sized shadow. Something ancient sleeping beneath the surface. Something alive. The message grew sharper. "Leave. Leave before the cost becomes final." Zirith tried to speak, but his voice shook. "Who are you?" The answer came like thunder. "The guardian of Earth." The ship suddenly tilted, falling toward the planet. Gravity pulled them like a giant hand grabbing the entire vessel. The alarms flared back to life, screaming warnings. Fire burned along the hull as they dropped lower and lower. The blue oceans grew larger in the window. Clouds rushed toward them. A storm formed out of nowhere, swirling with unnatural speed. It had an eye looking at them. "Commander, we cannot escape," the pilot cried. "The engines are dead." For the first time, Zirith felt true fear. Fear not of death, but of a power greater than anything his people had ever known. "Brace for impact," he shouted. The ship crashed into the upper atmosphere, shaking so violently that everyone was thrown from their seats. Sparks exploded from the consoles. Heat wrapped around the ship like a burning cage. The Guardian's voice spoke again, whispering like a cold wind. "You were warned." Earth's gravity tightened its grip. Mountains rose below them, sharp and deadly. The crew screamed. Zirith felt the planets were pressing down on them, crushing them. And then, just before the ship hit the ground, a blinding light exploded under them. The atmosphere cracked like glass. Something enormous moved beneath Earth's surface, rising, watching, judging. The last thing Zirith heard was the Guardian's voice echoing inside his skull, sealing their fate. "You touched Earth. Now the sacrifice begins." The ship plunged downward toward the forbidden blue planet, and the true nightmare was only beginning. The Valaris did not hit the ground as the crew expected. Instead, it smashed through the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere, then suddenly slowed as a strange invisible force caught the ship like a giant hand. Commander Zirith opened his eyes, coughing. Smoke filled the bridge, screens flickered, and alarms howled in every corner. But they were alive. Somehow, the same planet that tried to crush them had chosen not to kill them yet. The ship crashed hard into the forested mountains of northern Earth, carving a long burning trail before finally stopping against the side of a rocky hill. The impact shook every bone in Zirith's body. He heard the cries of his crew. He saw engineers dragging wounded officers away from sparking consoles. The air smelled of fire, metal, and fear. Outside the broken window, rain began to fall. Earth felt angry, like the storm was a warning. "Systems," Zirith croaked. The technician shook his head. "Almost nothing works. We are trapped, Commander." Zirith looked out at the dark forest. Every branch, every leaf seemed to shiver as if the planet itself was breathing and watching them. The Guardian's words echoed in his skull. "You touched Earth. Now the sacrifice begins." Before Zirith could think of a plan, the ship's sensors activated for one brief second and flashed a warning. Human forces approaching. Across the forest, helicopters cut through the stormy sky. Soldiers moved silently through the trees. Military jeeps roared forward, headlights glowing through the rain. The humans surrounded the crash site with speed and skill, showing they had trained for something like this. Commander Lien Hart, leader of a Special Earth Defense Unit, stepped out of a black armored helicopter. She stared at the alien ship with shock, but also caution. She expected danger. She expected a threat. She did not expect what she saw next. The Valaris's door opened slowly, shaking and sparking. Zirith walked out with his hands raised high, his face tired and desperate. He was not here to invade. He was here to beg for help. Lien lifted her weapon, shouting, "Do not move." Zirith did not move. His voice trembled as he spoke, his translator projecting soft English. "Human leader, please, we do not come for war. We come for hope. Our star system is dying." The humans exchanged confused looks. They had expected an attack, not a cry for help. "Stand down," Lien ordered her soldiers, but her finger stayed on the trigger. She did not trust this strange alien. Zirith continued, speaking quickly before fear overtook him. "We tried to reach your planet, but your world, your Earth, is not normal. Something ancient lives beneath it. Something powerful. It stopped our ship. It warned us." Lien frowned. "Warned you? Warned you about what?" Zirith stepped forward slowly. Rain dripped down his metallic armor. "It calls itself the Guardian." Those words changed everything. The soldiers around Lien looked at each other nervously. Most thought it was nonsense, but Lien did not. She had seen something strange, something impossible, just an hour earlier, before they arrived. Several Earth satellites had suddenly fallen from orbit like dead birds. Not destroyed, not hacked, simply pushed as if by an unseen force. And there was more. Moments before the alien ship crashed, Earth's moon vibrated with a mysterious energy wave that no human system could identify. She had dismissed it as an error, but now it made sense. Something was happening on Earth. Something humans could not explain. Lien lowered her weapon slightly. "What does this Guardian want?" she asked. Zirith shook his head. "It said the price of touching Earth is everything we love. And now our star system is falling apart. Please, if humans can help us, we will repay you with anything, knowledge, technology, resources. Just save our people." Lien studied him carefully. He was not lying. His voice carried real fear, real pain. That fear grew stronger when the ground beneath their feet suddenly trembled. The trees shook. The rain stopped midair for a fraction of a second, as if time itself held its breath. And then, far away in the sky, something impossible happened. A satellite burning like a shooting star crashed through the clouds and smashed into the mountains behind them. Soldiers jumped back. Lien stared in disbelief. Zirith whispered, "The Guardian is angry." Before she could respond, another tremor rippled through the forest. Birds fled in massive waves, screaming. The air became heavy like a warning. Lien grabbed her radio. "All units, prepare for evacuation." But the ground trembled again, stronger this time. Trees cracked. Rocks fell from cliffs. A deep rumbling sound spread across the mountains, as if the earth was speaking in a voice too old to understand. Zirith felt the Guardian inside his mind again, whispering coldly, "You were warned. Leave now." He dropped to his knees, clutching his head. The humans watched in shock as the alien collapsed, screaming in pain. The Guardian wasn't just sending a message, it was attacking him. Lien rushed forward despite her soldiers, shouting at her to stop. She grabbed Zirith's shoulders. "What is happening? What does it want?" Zirith's eyes were wide with terror. "It does not want anyone to claim Earth. Any species who tries will pay a terrible price." Another tremor hit the mountain, stronger than all the others. A huge section of the forest split open as if being torn apart from deep underground. Bright blue energy flickered inside the crack, glowing like a heartbeat. The soldiers stepped back, weapons raised. Lien stared in horror. Zirith whispered, "It is warning you too." And then, in the middle of the rumbling earth and glowing light, a voice echoed inside every human mind. Not heard through ears, but inside their thoughts. "Do not protect the alien. Do not interfere. Earth will decide their fate." Every soldier froze. Their hearts pounded. Their minds screamed. Because for the first time in human history, Earth itself had spoken to them. And the nightmare was only growing stronger. The crack in the forest kept growing wider, glowing with bright blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat deep inside the earth. Commander Zirith lay on the ground, shaking, trying to breathe as the Guardian's voice faded from his mind. The humans stood frozen, unable to move, their hearts racing from the shock of hearing a voice that did not belong to any living creature they had ever known. Commander Lien Hart felt her legs tremble, but she forced herself to stand firm. She looked at her soldiers, at the terrified alien crew behind Zirith, and then at the widening fissure releasing strange warm air from beneath the Earth's crust. Nothing in human training had prepared her for this. Zirith slowly pushed himself up, his hands shaking. "It is waking," he whispered, eyes fixed on the glowing crack. "That thing beneath your planet, it is coming to the surface." Lien swallowed hard. "What exactly is it?" Zirith shook his head. "We only know it calls itself the Guardian. We do not know its form. Only its voice. Only its power." His words were trembling, not just from fear but from the pain echoing in his skull. The Guardian had touched him directly, something even his advanced species had never experienced. The ground shook again, harder this time. Rocks rolled down the mountain. The soldiers backed away, weapons up, but they all knew their guns meant nothing against something that controlled the planet itself. Suddenly, the crack snapped shut with a thunderous boom, sending a wave of dust into the air. The forest fell silent. Even the storm clouds above paused in their movement. It was as if Earth had taken a long breath, preparing for something worse. Lien took that moment to regain her control. "We need to get inside the ship," she said firmly. "If this Guardian wants to speak, we need answers." and we need protection. She ordered her team to escort Zirith and the crew into a nearby cave formation for temporary cover. The soldiers were nervous, but they followed her command. Zirith walked slowly beside her, holding his head as if still fighting the Guardian's echo. "There is something you must know," he said. "The Guardian showed us a vision. Our star system falling into darkness." Lien frowned. "How can Earth cause that? That doesn't make sense." Zirith looked at her with hopeless eyes. "That is the terrifying part. I don't think it is only Earth. I think the Guardian belongs to something bigger. A network of ancient protectors. We approached a forbidden world and triggered a punishment that reaches across space." Lien felt a chill crawl down her spine. If what he said was true, then humanity wasn't dealing with an alien threat. They were dealing with a cosmic rule they didn't even know existed. Inside the cave, soldiers set up lights and scanners. The alien crew sat in shock, whispering among themselves. Lien watched Zirith carefully as he explained everything. How the Guardian's voice entered his mind. How it showed him a vision of his star system dying planet by planet. "It said we tried to take what is not ours," Zirith whispered. "It said Earth is protected for a reason." Before he could finish, every electronic device in the cave flickered violently. Radios buzzed. Lights dimmed. Tablets cracked. One device after another died as if drained by an unseen force. The soldiers immediately raised their weapons, forming a defensive circle around the cave entrance. Lien yelled, "Everyone stay alert." Zirith felt a pressure pushing on his chest, a familiar cold weight. The Guardian was coming again, this time not through the ground, but through the air itself. A low hum filled the cave, like a giant heartbeat reverberating across the mountains. The walls vibrated, pebbles falling from the ceiling. And then something happened that terrified both humans and aliens equally. Shadows moved across the walls, with no source of light. They twisted and formed shapes, ancient symbols no human language could identify. The temperature dropped instantly, the air turning icy. The heartbeat like hum stopped. Silence took over. And then a voice filled the entire cave, echoing inside every mind. "Earth is protected. Your presence is a violation." Soldiers staggered back, some falling to their knees. Zirith clenched his teeth, trying to stay conscious. Lien screamed, "What do you want? Why are you attacking them? They came here because they needed help." The Guardian's voice responded, cold and emotionless. "No species may claim Earth. No species may land without invitation. This world has suffered before. It will never suffer again." Lien forced herself to speak, anger rising inside her. "Then why show us visions? Why destroy an entire star system? That is not protection, that is punishment." The cave trembled again. Dust rained down. The symbols on the wall glowed brighter. The Guardian spoke. "You do not understand the cost of the last war. You do not understand the danger locked beneath this world. If Earth falls again, the universe will follow." Zirith gasped. "Again? What do you mean again?" The Guardian replied slowly, like revealing a painful memory. "Earth was attacked once, by invaders older than your stars. Billions died. Worlds burned. A sacrifice was made. I was born from that sacrifice." Lien looked at Zirith with shock. "Something attacked Earth before humanity existed?" Zirith whispered, "This Guardian was made from the destruction of many star systems." The Guardian continued, "My purpose is simple. Protect Earth at any cost. All who try to take it shall lose everything." The cave walls split open with a blast of blue energy. A gust of wind roared through the cave. A glowing shape formed in the air, a massive silhouette like a giant creature made of light and shadow. Its eyes, bright as stars, looked directly at Zirith. "Your people touched Earth without permission. The price has begun." Zirith fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. "Please, they will all die." The Guardian's voice softened only slightly. "One life may save many. One sacrifice may restore balance." Lien stepped forward, shaking with fear but determined. "Whose life?" The Guardian responded, "The life of the one who brought them here." And every eye in the cave turned to Commander Zirith, as Earth demanded its first sacrifice. The cave shook harder as the Guardian's glowing form hovered above the ground, its light shifting like waves of living fire, casting long shadows across the terrified humans and aliens. Commander Zirith felt cold sweat run down his face as the Guardian's final words echoed inside his skull, demanding his life as the price for touching Earth. The alien crew behind him cried out in fear, begging the Guardian for mercy, but the enormous entity paid no attention to them. Commander Lien Hart stepped between Zirith and the Guardian, even though her legs trembled and her heart raced so fast it hurt. "You cannot punish an entire star system for the actions of one ship," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You say you're a protector. So protect. Do not destroy." The Guardian's shape shifted, growing taller, its eyes glowing brighter. "Human leader, you do not understand the danger. You do not understand what sleeps beneath this world. If Earth falls again, everything falls." Before anyone could speak, a sudden explosion of blue light burst from the Guardian's form, and every screen inside the cave flickered to life, showing something from across the galaxy. The Altar star system. What appeared on the screen made the alien crew scream in horror. Their sun, once bright and golden, was dimming like a dying candle. Its surface cracked with dark lines like spreading wounds. Planets that once shimmered with light now floated like dead stones in a frozen void. The image zoomed in on Althar's home planet. The cities were dark. The oceans were turning solid. Their communication towers sent desperate signals into space, repeating the same message. "Help us. Our star is dying." Zirith dropped to his knees as he watched the world he loved, his home, his family, his entire civilization, slowly fall into darkness. Tears fell from his eyes. His hands shook uncontrollably. The Guardian spoke softly, almost like a whisper made of wind. "Their end has begun. This is the price of approaching Earth, the cost of touching what is forbidden." Lien clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her skin. "This isn't protection," she snapped. "This is cruelty." The Guardian responded. "Earth has suffered before. Worlds died to save it. I was born to prevent such destruction again. No more invaders. No more conquerors. No more threats." Zirith raised his head, voice breaking. "We did not come to conquer. We came because our world was dying." But the Guardian's voice remained cold. "Intentions do not matter. Only the law matters. Earth must remain untouched." A violent tremor rolled through the mountains as lightning exploded across the sky, outside the cave. The storm had intensified, twisting into a massive unnatural hurricane above the crash site. Trees bent sideways. Rocks lifted from the ground as if gravity itself was changing. The Guardian turned toward the cave entrance, its body glowing brighter. "The punishment continues. Your star system will collapse completely within days." Zirith screamed, "And oh, please, millions will die. Innocents. Children. Stop this." The Guardian paused. For the first time, its light flickered uncertainly, like a flame disturbed by wind. Lien saw the hesitation and stepped closer. "If you truly protect Earth," she said slowly, "then listen. Destroying another star system will not protect anything. You are creating more suffering, more anger, more danger. You may start another war." The Guardian shifted, considering her words, but then its voice hardened again. "My purpose is to follow the ancient law. No species may touch Earth. No species may claim it. All violators must pay." Zirith could not breathe. His vision blurred. His heart felt like it was breaking piece by piece. Images of his people flashed in his mind. His mother, his sister, his crew, all waiting, praying he would return with hope. But now he brought only death. Suddenly, the images on the screen changed, showing Altar scientists desperately activating their planet's shields. But the shields flickered weakly, failing one by one. Their sun dimmed further. A wave of freezing darkness spread across their entire system. "Commander Zirith," the Guardian said, "your people's suffering is the consequence of your choice to land upon Earth." Rage exploded inside Lien. She stepped between Zirith and the Guardian again. "Then punish him alone," she shouted. "Leave his star system out of this." The Guardian's eyes glowed brighter. One life cannot undo the damage already done. Zirith whispered, "There must be another way." But before he could finish, a loud explosion cracked the sky outside. A massive chunk of the moon's surface blasted upward, as if struck by an invisible force. Humans and aliens screamed as sonic waves rattled the cave. Dust fell from the ceiling. The Guardian's form flickered again. "Earth is responding to my awakening," it said. "The planet remembers the last war. It prepares for another." Lien's eyes widened. "You said Earth was attacked before. What attacked it?" The Guardian's voice grew dark. "A species older than stars. They tried to harvest Earth's core. They awakened the horrors, sleeping beneath the crust. Billions of lives, human and alien, were lost in that war." Zirith stared in disbelief. "So Earth was once the center of a cosmic battle?" The Guardian nodded. "A sacrifice sealed the enemy away. I was created from that sacrifice. I am bound to protect Earth at any cost." The cave shook again. Blue cracks spread across the ground like lightning trapped inside stone. Zirith looked at the images of his dying star system. His people's cries echoed inside his mind. "Please," he whispered, "tell me what I must do to save them." The Guardian hovered closer, its voice echoing like a cold wind. "To save your star system, you must repay the balance. A sacrifice equal to the violation." Lien held her breath. "What sacrifice?" The Guardian's eyes locked onto Zirith. "Yours." And with that single word, the fate of an entire star system hung in the balance. Commander Lien Hart looked at her soldiers and the alien crew, her mind racing faster than the storm outside. The ground beneath them was still trembling from the Guardian's power, and the glow of the fissure in the forest had spread like veins of light, crawling toward the mountains. Every human and alien could feel it. Earth was alive, and it was angry. Zirith knelt on the wet ground, his head bowed, his armor cracked from the crash. "If we do nothing, the Altar star system will collapse. Millions will die," he whispered. Lien's heart pounded. She had spent her life following rules, protecting her people without question, but the Guardian had given them no choice. If they followed its will blindly, they would watch an entire civilization die. She looked at her team, at the frightened soldiers gripping their weapons, and then back at Zirith. "We cannot let that happen," she said firmly. "We have to help them, even if it means breaking every rule we have ever known." The soldiers exchanged nervous glances, some shaking, but Lien's determination was contagious. They were trained to survive, to adapt, to protect humanity, but no training could prepare them for this. Zirith slowly raised his head, hope flickering in his tired eyes. "You would interfere with the Guardian's judgment?" he asked. "Do you understand the consequences?" Lien nodded, though the weight of her decision pressed down on her like a mountain. "Yes, but watching your people die while we do nothing, that is a cost we cannot pay. Humanity will not stand by and let another civilization perish without trying." She turned to the scientist Dr. Alara Voss, who had been studying the Guardian's energy patterns. "Do you have anything that can help us? Anything at all?" Dr. Voss swallowed hard, her fingers shaking. "There's one thing. Something hidden, powerful, and dangerous. We call it the Atlas engine. It was built decades ago, never tested. It can manipulate gravitational fields, reshape energy flows, even contain or redirect planetary scale forces. It was never meant to be used on Earth. It is forbidden technology." Lien's eyes widened, but she didn't hesitate. "Then we will use it. We have no other choice." Zirith stood slowly, trembling. "You do not understand. That weapon, if it fails, Earth itself may die. Your planet could be destroyed along with my people." Lien's jaw tightened. "We cannot gamble on an action. If we do nothing, your system dies. If we try, we at least have a chance." Dr. Voss nodded and began explaining the activation procedure, the risks, the energy calculations. The Guardian's presence loomed over them like a shadow, the air thick with tension. Every second, the forest trembled, rivers shifted, and the glow from the fissures pulsed as if counting down. Lien looked at Zirith. "Are you willing to enter the Guardian's territory? To speak to it directly? Maybe we can negotiate. Maybe we can stop the destruction before it's too late." Zirith hesitated. He knew the Guardian would not bargain. It was ancient, merciless, and beyond comprehension. But he could not watch his people die. "I will go," he said finally. "If my life can save my system, I must try." The soldiers and scientists exchanged alarmed glances. Entering the Guardian's domain meant walking into the unknown, confronting a force that could crush them all in an instant. Yet they followed Zereth as he moved toward the glowing fissure. Dr. Voss activated the Atlas engine, and a hum of power filled the cave. Machines whirred, cables sparked, and the air vibrated with energy. The Guardian's voice rang again, deeper and colder than ever. "You will not interfere. Leave now or suffer the cost." Lien stepped forward, standing beside Zereth. "We are not leaving. Not while we can fight for life. Not while millions depend on us." The Guardian's energy surged, shaking the cave violently. Rocks fell, dust filled the air, and the humans were thrown to their knees. The alien crew shouted, trying to shield their commander. Zereth felt the Guardians were pressing against him, trying to push him back. He gritted his teeth and moved forward, ignoring the pain. The Atlas engine's hum grew louder, vibrating through the mountains, through the forest, through the air itself. The Guardian's presence was overwhelming, like a wall of invisible hands pressing against the world. Lien watched as Zereth approached the fissure, his form small against the glow of the Guardian's energy. "Do it now," she yelled at Dr. Voss. The scientist's hands trembled as she completed the final activation sequence. A beam of pure energy shot from the device into the fissure, colliding with the Guardian's power. For a moment, everything went silent. The forest stopped moving. Rain hung frozen in the air. Even the wind ceased. Then the Guardian's voice echoed, louder than ever, booming across the mountains and into the minds of all who were present. "You dare defy me. You dare interfere with Earth's judgment." But the Atlas engine pulsed with a counter-energy, wrapping around the Guardian's force like a shield. The light from the fissure flared, blinding everyone for a few heartbeats. When the vision cleared, the Guardian's energy seemed contained, unable to strike out fully, at least for now. Zereth stumbled, exhausted, but alive. Lien rushed to his side, holding him upright. "We did it," she said, though the voice in the back of her mind warned her that this was only temporary. The Guardian's presence had not disappeared. It had been restrained, yes, but the cost of defiance was not over. Shadows of energy moved across the forest. Blue light flickered beneath the mountains. The Guardian's warning repeated in a whisper that seemed to reach the deepest part of their minds. "The price is not paid. The sacrifice will come." Lien took a deep breath, glancing at the alien crew. "We broke the rules," she said quietly, "and we may pay for it, but we gave hope to millions who would have been lost." Zereth nodded weakly, looking at the forest, at the glowing fissures, at the strange, pulsing light beneath the ground. "For now, we have a chance," he said. Outside, the storm began to fade, the rain slowing to a drizzle. The forest still trembled slightly, a reminder of the Guardian's power. The humans and aliens gathered together, exhausted but alive. They knew this was only the beginning. Defying Earth's Guardian had bought them time, but it had also sealed their fate in ways they could not yet understand. Somewhere deep beneath the surface, the Guardian stirred, its consciousness alive and aware. And one thought echoed endlessly in every mind. The price of touching Earth had begun, and no one knew how high it would climb before the final sacrifice. Commander Lien Hart stood beside the crackling Atlas engine, sweat dripping down her face as her soldiers and the alien crew watched in tense silence. The forest around them was still trembling, the glowing fissures of the Earth Guardian spreading their eerie light like veins of power across the mountains. Zereth, though exhausted and injured, stood upright, trying to regain his strength after the Guardian's attacks. Dr. Alara Voss wiped her hands on her uniform, her eyes wide and fearful. "The engine is ready," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But we must be careful. It can do incredible things, but it is not meant to be used on this planet. If we make a mistake, we could destroy everything, including ourselves." Lien's jaw tightened. "We have no choice. If we fail, the Altar star system dies. Millions of lives will be lost. If we succeed, maybe we can stop the Guardian's punishment." Zirith looked at her with deep concern. "You don't understand," he said. "The Guardian does not act like a normal being. It is a force older than stars, older than civilizations. It cannot be reasoned with in any normal way. Using the engine could provoke it further." Lien shook her head. "We are already provoking it by standing here. Doing nothing is no longer an option." Dr. Voss began the activation sequence, fingers moving over holographic panels. Sparks flew as energy flowed into the engine. The humming grew louder, vibrating through the ground, shaking trees and rattling rocks. "It is starting," she said, her voice barely audible over the increasing roar of power. The Guardian's presence pressed down on them, a suffocating weight that seemed to bend reality itself. Shadows danced along the cave walls, twisting and warping as if alive. The voice of the Guardian echoed in their minds. "You dare touch forbidden power. You shall pay the price." Zirith fell to his knees, clutching his head as the psychic pressure struck him like a hammer. "It knows," he groaned. "It knows exactly what we are doing. It is testing us, pushing us to break, to fail." Lien placed a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Then we hold. We survive. We fight. The engine must work." Dr. Voss completed the final calibration, her hands shaking violently. "Here goes nothing," she whispered, and pressed the activation sequence. A beam of concentrated energy shot from the Atlas engine into the fissure, colliding with the glowing force of the Guardian. The forest trembled violently, birds and animals fleeing in every direction. A blinding light erupted from the fissure, stretching toward the sky and reflecting off the mountains like a second sun. Zirith and the human shielded their eyes, hearts pounding. The Guardian's voice boomed louder than ever. "You dare interfere with Earth's will. You dare manipulate the power of this world. Your hubris will cost you everything." Lien gritted her teeth. "We are not afraid. We fight for life. We fight for survival." The energy from the Atlas engine wrapped around the Guardian's force, a visible stream of power twisting and clashing like two titanic rivers colliding. The light illuminated the alien crew's faces in stark relief, showing both fear and hope. For a moment, the world seemed frozen, as if time itself paused. Then the Guardian struck, sending a pulse of energy outward, knocking the humans and aliens to the ground. Rocks flew. Trees splintered. The sky lit up with streaks of lightning that were not from any storm, but from the raw energy of the planet itself. Zirith groaned, lifting his head through the chaos. "It will not stop. The Guardian will not allow this. It can destroy us all in a heartbeat." Dr. Voss's hands flew over the controls, sweat dripping into her eyes. "We must maintain focus. The engine is stabilizing the energy flow. It can contain the Guardian, but only if we keep it aligned." Lien crawled toward the controls beside Dr. Voss, helping steady her hands. "Do it. Do whatever it takes." The fissure's glow began to pulse in rhythm with the Atlas engine, as if the planet itself were testing their control. For every second of success, the Guardian's presence grew heavier, more oppressive, like a tide pushing back against the dam of human and alien willpower. The humans realized that the battle was not physical but mental, against a consciousness older than the universe, against a force that could bend the laws of reality. The alien crew chanted quietly, a prayer in their native tongue, hoping their energy could support Zirith's mind. The Guardian spoke again, a low rumble shaking the ground beneath them. "All who dare touch Earth shall suffer. None can escape the cost." Zirith forced himself upright, despite the pounding in his head. "We have no choice. If we falter, every world in my system dies. We hold, we fight, or everything is lost." The soldiers cheered silently, gripping their weapons, even as the cave shook violently. They could not physically fight the Guardian, but their presence, their determination, strengthened the humans using the engine. Dr. Voss pressed the final override, sending a surge of stabilizing energy into the fissure. The clash of power between the Atlas engine and the Guardian reached its peak. Blue light tore across the mountains like rivers of molten energy, and the Guardian's shadow, massive and incomprehensible, twisted in the glow. Then, slowly, the pulse of energy began to settle. The light softened, though it still glowed. The ground trembled, but no longer violently. The guardian's voice remained, but quieter, a low warning. You have delayed the price, but it is not forgiven. The sacrifice will come. Lien collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. Zirith sank beside her, breathing heavily, pain etched on his face. Did it work? He asked weakly. Dr. Voss shook her head slowly. It is restrained for now, but the guardian is not defeated. It will test us again. Outside the cave, the forest slowly stopped trembling. Birds cautiously returned, but the fissure still glowed, a reminder of the raw power beneath the surface. Lien looked at Zirith, the alien crew, and her soldiers. We used forbidden technology to hold back an ancient force. We may pay for it, but we gave hope to millions who would have been lost. Zirith nodded, exhausted but resolute. The Guardian will rise again, but for now we have a chance. And we must prepare for what comes next. The Atlas engine hummed softly, still radiating power, a fragile shield against the Guardian's judgment. Deep beneath the surface, the Earth Guardian stirred, aware of every action, calculating every consequence, waiting for the moment when the price of touching Earth would demand its first sacrifice. Commander Zirith stood at the edge of the glowing fissure, looking down into the churning light and energy that pulsed from deep beneath Earth's surface. The Atlas engine hummed faintly behind him, its power stabilizing the Guardian just enough to allow him to descend safely. But the air itself seemed to thicken as he took his first step into the unknown. Lien Hart and Dr. Alara Voss watched anxiously, the soldiers behind them tense, weapons raised. Though they knew nothing they could stop what lay ahead. Zirith stepped into the fissure, and instantly a strange heat washed over him, not burning, but heavy, pressing against his skin and mind. The walls of the tunnel were alive with flowing symbols, glowing lines of light that seemed to pulse like veins, moving in patterns he could not comprehend. Every step he took, every breath, was filled with the sensation of being watched, not by eyes, but by consciousness, ancient, immense, and patient. He moved deeper, following a path that seemed to bend and twist with its own will, the fissure narrowing, then widening into vast caverns that felt older than stars themselves. The walls were carved with images of past civilizations, some destroyed, some vanished without a trace. Zirith realized with horror that these were not just decorations, they were warnings, memories of those who had tried to take Earth before him. He paused and touched one wall, feeling the energy hum beneath his fingers. It was like a voice whispering in his mind, telling the story of pain, failure, and annihilation. I understand now, he whispered, voice trembling, why this planet protects itself. As he walked, he saw visions of great star systems burning, of ships like his own falling into the depths, of entire civilizations erased. The Guardian's presence pressed harder on him with every step. He could hear its voice again, echoing inside his mind. All who touch Earth must pay the price. None may claim it. Zirith swallowed and pressed forward. He knew what he must do. He had to speak to the Guardian, not through machines, not through weapons, but directly, to appeal to reason, if reasoning was possible with such a force. Deeper still, he came upon a cavern so vast that the walls disappeared into darkness. In the center, a column of pure energy rose from the ground, a glowing, writhing mass that seemed to hold the heartbeat of the planet itself. He felt his knees before it, awe and fear locking him in place. I am Zirith of the altar, he said, voice shaking but determined. My people came here seeking a home because our stars are dying. We did not come to harm. We came to survive. The energy pulsed violently, shaking the cavern, and a voice, immense and ancient, spoke inside his mind. You do not understand what your presence costs. One world cannot hold the debt of another. Your system will fall unless balance is restored. Zirith bowed his head, tears running down his face. Tell me what I must do. Tell me how I can save them. I will do anything. The Guardian's energy flared brighter, wrapping around him like invisible hands, pressing, judging, testing. One life may restore balance, it whispered. But whose life? Zirith looked around the cavern. He saw shadows of past visitors, echoes of those who had failed. He realized the Guardian was not asking for obedience. It was demanding understanding, courage, and sacrifice. He thought of his crew, of his people in the dying altar system, waiting for a chance to survive. "It must be mine," he said quietly, knowing the weight of the words. The Guardian pulsed again, showing him a vision of the human scientist, Dr. Alara Voss, working with the Atlas engine. "The choice is yours," it said. "One life can save many. One refusal can destroy all." Ziritha's mind raced. If he offered himself, his people would live, but he would be gone forever. If he refused, the Guardian would destroy not only his crew, but entire star systems connected to his own. He felt the presence of the Guardian like a cold tide, pressing into his soul. "I accept," he whispered. "I will give my life if it saves my people." The energy column shivered violently, brightening to a near-blinding white light. The cavern walls shook, and Zirith felt his consciousness begin to separate from his body, like being pulled in every direction at once. He fell to his knees, gasping. "Do it, save them," he muttered. Outside the fissure, Lien and the soldiers felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere, a pulse of energy that made the ground tremble. The Atlas engine reacted, flaring brightly, stabilizing the energy field around the fissure, preventing it from collapsing entirely. The humans and aliens looked on in horror and awe, sensing that the ultimate cost was about to be paid. Within the cavern, Ziritha's body began to glow, merging with the Guardian's energy. Memories, thoughts, feelings, everything he had, was being absorbed into the ancient force protecting Earth. He felt his life slipping away, yet his mind remained focused, willing the Guardian to spare his people. "Go live, survive," he whispered as the last of his strength drained into the planet. The energy pulse exploded outward in a wave of blue-white light, racing up through the fissure, across the forest, and into the atmosphere. Trees swayed violently, animals scattered, but the energy stabilized the Guardian's presence, containing its wrath for now. Outside, Lien and the soldiers shielded their eyes as the cavern shook and the pulse faded. When the light dimmed, the fissure glowed softly, calm but still alive. Zirith was gone, absorbed into the Guardian's energy, leaving only silence and a faint hum that reminded them all that Earth was still watching. Dr. Voss fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "He did it," she whispered. Lien placed a hand on her shoulder. "Yes, he saved them all." The soldiers looked at the calm forest, the glowing fissures, and the Atlas engine, understanding that the battle was won, but the war with the Guardian was far from over. Somewhere deep beneath the Earth, the Guardian stirred, aware of the sacrifice, alive and patient, waiting for the next test, and for the next visitor who might dare touch the forbidden blue planet. The humans and aliens would survive today, but the cost of reaching Earth had begun, and its price would echo across the stars for eternity. The glow from the fissure had settled into a steady pulse, but the atmosphere remained tense, thick with the lingering presence of the Guardian. Commander Lienhardt and her soldiers stood in the clearing, watching as the Atlas engine continued to hum softly, stabilizing the energy field and keeping the Guardian contained for now. Zirith was gone, absorbed into the Guardian's energy, leaving a heavy silence in his absence. The alien crew bowed their heads, mourning their commander and leader, yet alive because of his sacrifice. Dr. Alara Voss wiped tears from her eyes, her hands shaking from exhaustion and grief. Lien turned to her team, her mind racing with thoughts and questions about the Guardian's judgment. It had demanded one life to save a star system, and Zirith had given his. But the pulse of energy from the fissure continued, stronger and more insistent than before, as if the Guardian were not satisfied. Suddenly, the Atlas engine began to flicker violently, alarms blaring as energy readings spiked. Dr. Voss ran to the console. "Something is happening. The Guardian is reacting to the sacrifice," she shouted over the roar of power. The fissure's glow shifted, deepening to a bright blue that illuminated the surrounding forest, and a strange figure emerged within the light. It was not the Guardian in full, but a projection, a vision of the future, or perhaps a warning. And standing at the center of it was a human figure, illuminated and glowing, the same Dr. Voss who had activated the engine. Lien stumbled back in shock. "Alara, what is this?" she whispered. The voice of the Guardian boomed across the clearing, not heard with ears, But inside every mind, the balance requires a human life. The choice is clear. One must give themselves willingly to restore what was disturbed. One life, to save many. The rest may live. Dr. Voss froze, staring at the vision of herself as the Guardian projected it. Her mind raced. She knew what it meant. The Guardian had chosen her. The life it demanded was hers if the balance was to be restored. Soldiers gasped, some falling to their knees, unable to comprehend the weight of the demand. Lien stepped forward, her hand trembling. "No, it cannot be you. We can find another way." But the Guardian's energy pulsed through the forest like a heartbeat, shaking the trees, moving rivers of energy across the mountains. None may escape. None may bargain. The choice has been made. Dr. Voss felt a cold pressure inside her skull, stronger than anything she had ever known. It was not a threat, it was a certainty. The Guardian had chosen her. The energy from the fissure grew, surrounding her in a cocoon of light. Ziritha's sacrifice had delayed the punishment, but now the cost had shifted. Humanity itself must pay a life to maintain balance. She looked at Lien, fear and determination warring in her eyes. "Commander, if I do this, your planet, your people, your soldiers, they live," she said softly. Lien shook her head violently. "There has to be another way. There must be." But the Guardian's energy pulsed in response, a low vibration felt in every bone. "No, there is no other way. Balance must be restored. Accept the cost willingly, or all shall perish." Dr. Voss closed her eyes, feeling the weight of billions of lives resting on her shoulders. She thought of her family, her colleagues, and the soldiers who had trusted her, and she made her decision. She stepped forward, lifting her hands in surrender to the glowing energy. The fissure widened slightly, a vortex of blue-white light spiraling around her as the Guardian absorbed her willingness, testing her courage and selflessness. Lien reached for her, desperation in her eyes. "Ilara, please, we can find another way. Don't do this." Dr. Voss looked at her commander one last time, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "I have no other choice. I must do this for everyone to live." The moment she spoke the words, the Guardian's energy enveloped her completely, lifting her slightly off the ground as her body glowed with the same light as the fissure. The Atlas engine's hum reached a high pitch, stabilizing the energy while transmitting a counterbalance that allowed the human soldiers, the alien crew, and the surrounding forest to remain unharmed. The wind howled, the trees bent, and the ground shook as the Guardian absorbed her essence, testing it, reshaping it, integrating it into the vast network of energy protecting Earth. In that instant, the forest fell silent, the storm ceased, and the pulse of the fissure softened. Lien and the soldiers fell to their knees, watching in awe as the human sacrifice was accepted, the Guardian's judgment momentarily satisfied. Ziritha's sacrifice and now Dr. Voss's willingness had restored balance, at least temporarily, holding back the destruction that threatened not just Earth, but countless worlds connected to the Altar system. Lien's mind reeled from the enormity of what had just happened, understanding fully the cost of reaching Earth, the price demanded by a planet alive and aware. The alien crew bowed their heads, their grief tempered by relief, knowing that their people and systems would survive because of the courage of both Zirith and Dr. Voss. The Guardian's presence remained, vast and eternal, but for now, it had withdrawn, contained by the power of the Atlas engine and the selfless sacrifices of those who dared touch the forbidden blue planet. The fissure's glow settled into a calm, steady pulse, a reminder that Earth was alive, conscious, and vigilant. Lien stepped forward, voice trembling. We survived," she whispered, though she knew that the cost had been immense and the Guardian's tests were far from over. Outside the clearing, the forest slowly returned to normal, but the air was still thick with energy. The wind carried whispers, faint and unintelligible, and shadows of the Guardian's power lingered in the mountains. Humanity had learned the truth. Earth was not simply a planet. It was a guardian of life, ancient and merciless, demanding obedience, courage, and sacrifice from any who dared touch it. And though one human and one alien had paid the cost, the story was far from over, for the Guardian would watch again, and the price of reaching Earth would continue to echo across the stars, reminding all that some worlds are alive, some worlds are protected, and some choices come with consequences greater than anyone could imagine. The forest was eerily quiet after the energy from the fissure settled, but the air still hummed with the presence of the Guardian, a reminder that the planet was alive and aware of every heartbeat, every thought, every motion of those who had dared to touch it. Commander Lien Hart stood with her soldiers, exhausted and shaken, watching the alien crew tend to their wounded while the Atlas engine hummed faintly, keeping the Guardian's force contained but not gone. The sacrifices of Zirith and Dr. Alaravas had delayed the Guardian's wrath and restored temporary balance, but Lien knew in her heart that the cost was not fully paid. She could feel the weight of the planet pressing on them, a subtle, invisible pressure that made breathing heavier, thought slower, as if the Earth itself were watching, waiting, judging. The alien crew whispered among themselves, their faces pale and drawn, knowing that their commander had given everything and the humans had followed suit. Yet the Guardian remained, an ever-present force of judgment. Suddenly, the Atlas engine flared again, brighter than before, and the fissure in the forest pulsed violently, radiating energy across the clearing. Lien shielded her eyes, shouting over the roar. What now? What is it demanding? A voice, deep and eternal, echoed inside every mind, more powerful than ever before. Balance has been delayed, but not restored. One life remains. One choice must be made, or all shall perish. Decide or be destroyed. The words hit them with crushing clarity. The Guardian's power could not be bargained with. Its judgment was absolute. Zirith was gone. Dr. Voss had given herself. And yet the Guardian demanded one more sacrifice. Lien's heart sank. She looked at the alien crew, their faces filled with grief, and then at her soldiers, who trembled but remained silent, waiting for guidance. Her mind raced, calculating options, possibilities, any way to avoid further loss. But the Guardian's pressure intensified, shaking the trees, the ground, even the air itself. Every second wasted brought them closer to annihilation. There is no one left, Lien whispered, voice breaking. No one except me. Her hands trembled, her mind screaming with fear, yet her heart knew what had to be done. The Guardian's voice echoed again, almost approvingly, though still cold and emotionless. The one who brought others here, the one who led them to touch forbidden earth, must pay the final price. Will you accept? Lien swallowed hard, tears streaming down her face, and stepped forward. I accept, she whispered, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. Her soldiers gasped. Commander, you don't have to do this. We can find another way. She shook her head, though her heart ached. There's no other way. Zirith and Dr. Voss gave themselves. Their courage bought us time. Now I must finish what they started. It is my choice, my responsibility. The alien crew bowed their heads, understanding the weight of her decision, while the soldiers remained silent, fear and awe written across every face. The fissure pulsed violently, light streaming from it like a river of stars, and Lien stepped into the glowing energy, feeling its warmth and coldness at the same time. The Atlas engine hummed furiously, trying to stabilize the Guardian's force, but the pressure was immense, like standing inside the heartbeat of the planet itself. The Guardian's voice filled every mind in the clearing. You understand the cost. You understand the responsibility. One life may save many, but refusal will destroy all. Choose willingly. Lien closed her eyes, remembering the faces of her people, of the alien crew, of the soldiers who had trusted her. She thought of her home, her family, all the lives that would be lost if she hesitated. Her hands rose slowly, raised to the glowing energy of the fissure. I will give myself, she said softly, tears streaking her cheeks. The ground trembled violently, and the air itself thickened, pressing on her like invisible hands. The Atlas engine emitted a high-pitched hum as Lien's essence began to merge with the energy, a sensation of weightless fear and clarity all at once. She felt her consciousness stretching, pulling apart, merging with the Guardian's vast awareness. Memories of Zirith and Dr. Voss, of the alien crew, of the sacrifices made, flowed through her mind, strengthening her resolve even as her body began to weaken. The fissure glowed brighter and brighter, light spilling into the forest, washing over trees, rocks, and the soldiers who watched in awe and terror. The Guardian's judgment pressed, not violently, but with an inevitable certainty. The balance must be restored. The final choice is yours. Do not falter. Lien's body shook, the energy coursing through her like a river of fire and ice. But her mind remained clear. For their lives, for the star systems, for Earth itself, I accept, she whispered. The pulse of energy exploded outward in waves, wrapping around the forest, the mountains, the Atlas engine, and the alien crew, stabilizing the Guardian's force and containing its wrath. The tremors slowed, the fissure's glow softened, and for the first time, silence returned, though the hum of the planet's power remained, a constant reminder that the Guardian was watching. The soldiers knelt, exhausted, some crying, others staring in awe, understanding that Lien's sacrifice, combined with Xeritha's and Dr. Voss's, had fully restored balance for now. The alien crew bowed their heads, mourning their leaders, yet grateful for their courage. The forest began to settle, birds cautiously returning, the wind calming, but the Atlas engine still hummed faintly, a fragile seal holding back the Guardian's presence. Lien felt herself being absorbed into the Guardian's consciousness, becoming part of the force that protected Earth. And yet, in her mind, she saw the faces of those she saved, felt the pulse of the living planet, and understood the magnitude of her choice. She was gone, her life given willingly, but the Guardian's wrath was now restrained, the balance restored. Xerith, Dr. Voss, and Lien, their sacrifices intertwined, had saved countless lives across galaxies. The Guardian, silent now but aware, would remain vigilant, waiting, always aware, for any who might touch the forbidden blue planet. Humanity, the Altar system, and the alien crew survived, but the lesson was clear. Earth demanded respect, sacrifice, and courage, and its price was absolute, eternal, and unavoidable. The forest was quiet now, the glowing fissure reduced to a soft pulse, the energy of the Guardian still present but calm, like the watchful heartbeat of a living planet, and the Atlas engine hummed softly, a reminder of the tremendous power that had been wielded and contained. Commander Leonhard Xerith and Dr. Alara Voss had given their lives, their sacrifices absorbed into the Guardian's consciousness to restore balance, and the weight of their absence was heavy in the hearts of the surviving humans and the alien crew. The alien crew stood solemnly among the trees, tending to their wounded and repairing their ships, the silence around them filled with grief, respect, and awe for the courage of those who had chosen to pay the ultimate price. Lien's soldiers knelt, exhausted and shaken, some crying quietly, others staring at the soft light of the fissure, understanding that the lives of countless beings across galaxies had been preserved because of decisions made in courage and desperation. Dr. Voss's colleagues and fellow scientists moved carefully around the Atlas engine, now quiet and stable, marveling at the fact that the forbidden technology had worked in conjunction with the Guardian, though they understood that the balance was fragile and would require respect for Earth's power in the future. The alien crew approached Xeritha's memorial, a simple marker carved into the ground, the only symbol of a life given for the survival of millions, and whispered prayers in their native tongue, honoring their fallen leader and the bond he had formed with humanity. Lien's memory, absorbed into the Guardian's consciousness, lingered in the minds of those present as a beacon of selflessness and leadership, a reminder that true courage sometimes required stepping into the unknown and accepting the impossible. The humans slowly emerged from the forest, surveying the land around the fissure, seeing that the immediate danger had passed, but knowing instinctively that Earth's Guardian remained vigilant, alive, and aware, a silent observer and protector of a planet that would not be claimed or violated lightly. The alien crew began repairs on the Velaris, their technology merging cautiously with the human instruments left behind, while soldiers stood watch, keeping a protective perimeter around the fissure, ensuring that nothing disturbed the delicate balance now established. Communication devices crackled as news from the Altar star system arrived, confirming that energy stabilization had delayed the collapse of multiple planets and preserved critical life support networks, giving hope that the sacrifices made on Earth had ripple effects far beyond the solar system. Lien's presence, merged with the Guardian, seemed to extend a subtle reassurance, a quiet energy that touched the minds of those who had witnessed the events, giving them courage to rebuild, reflect, and respect the power they had encountered. The Atlas engine remained in place as a silent sentinel, a tool that would never again be used recklessly, its hum a constant reminder of the dangers and responsibilities of tampering with forces beyond comprehension. Dr. Voss, though physically absent, left behind detailed notes and guidance, a legacy of knowledge for humans and aliens alike, documenting the Guardian's reactions, the consequences of sacrifice, and the limits of technology in the presence of ancient forces. The soldiers slowly began clearing the forest of debris, marking the paths for safe navigation, while the alien crew repaired communications to relay messages to other surviving ships, ensuring that the story of courage, sacrifice, and the price of touching Earth would spread across the galaxy. The fissure, though diminished, pulsed softly like a heartbeat, a living symbol of vigilance and power, reminding all who approached that the planet was not simply land and water, but a conscious, protective entity capable of extraordinary judgment and unmatched force. Humans looked at one another, eyes wide with understanding, realizing that the line between life and death, survival and destruction, had been crossed and respected in ways that few could comprehend, and that the story of Zirith, Dr. Voss, and Lien would be told for generations as a lesson of courage and selflessness. The alien crew, inspired by the events, began organizing a memorial for their leaders, combining Altar tradition with new rituals learned from humanity, honoring the bond formed in the shadow of Earth's guardian and celebrating the unity forged through shared sacrifice. Soldiers discussed quietly among themselves the implications for Earth and the galaxy, understanding that the Guardian's presence meant vigilance and caution, but also that cooperation, intelligence, and courage could achieve what brute force alone never could. Across the horizon, the sun rose over the mountains, light glinting on the forest and the soft pulse of the fissure, signaling a new beginning, a fragile peace, and a reminder that life had been preserved through choices made in courage and sacrifice. The Guardian, still unseen but felt in every heartbeat of the planet, observed the survivors, its presence immense and eternal, acknowledging the balance now restored and the respect earned by those who had touched its world. Ships lifted slowly, repaired and ready to continue their journeys, carrying messages of hope and survival to distant worlds, the story of courage and sacrifice traveling faster than light across the galaxies. Lien, Zirith, and Dr. Voss, now part of the Guardian's eternal consciousness, remained alive in a different form, their courage and choices woven into the planet's very essence, ensuring that Earth's protection would endure and that no species could claim it without understanding the consequences. The surviving humans and aliens set up a temporary camp near the fissure, reflecting on what had occurred, honoring the fallen, and planning cautiously for the future, aware that Earth was alive, aware, and watching. Slowly, life began to return to the forest, birds cautiously singing, streams flowing again, the energy of the Guardian now calm but ready. A constant reminder that the forbidden blue planet would always demand respect, courage, and sacrifice from those who dared touch it. And in that quiet aftermath, amidst grief and hope, the survivors understood one undeniable truth. Some worlds are alive, some demand a price, and some sacrifices, once made, echo across the stars forever, shaping the future of civilizations and the balance of the universe itself.